There's a wonderful story of Jesus having compassion on a blind man in John the 9th chapter, in which he tells the man to go down to the pool of Siloam and wash his eyes. It's just a beautiful place, and I just love the story.
Now there's a picture that I have in my mind that I've seen since I was a kid, and it shows this pool of water off to the right and some stairs going up to the left. That's the image I've got stuck in my head. Was that accurate?
For many, many years, there was a misunderstanding about exactly where the pool of Siloam was located. This is actually the picture that you've seen. This is a picture of a pool that sat underneath a Byzantine church built around the 4th or 5th century. It's at the exit of Hezekiah's tunnel, which comes out the western side of the eastern hill here in Jerusalem. And it wasn't until recently that they found the real pool of Siloam. They found it while doing some excavations. They were digging for a sewage line in town, and what they found was a 1st century Roman Herodian style pool, and it was in the right area, so they knew they'd finally found the pool of Siloam.
During one of Jesus' trips to Jerusalem, his disciples saw a blind man and had the question, who sinned, this blind man or his parents, that he's blind? And Jesus, in answering their question, actually bent down, spit in some clay, rubbed it on the man's eyes, and sent him to wash. Now, where that miracle took place was somewhere in between here and there. Where are we walking?
We are on a 1st century road that leads from the Temple Mount area behind us all the way down to the pool of Siloam. We're about 15 or 20 feet underground, but they have excavated this just within the last couple years.
And after he would have washed and realized that he was miraculously healed, he likely would have gone back to the temple. And it's possible he would have come back up this exact same road.
This would have been the main road between the pool of Siloam and the Temple Mount.
As you get closer to the pool of Siloam, they've uncovered more of the width of the road. So it's actually much wider in the 1st century than it is when we were walking on it. So if you can picture it, at least 6, 7, 8 times wider than what we actually see. And this was a major thoroughfare going through town.
This is a beautiful artist representation of what the pool of Siloam would have looked like in the 1st century.
The pool is so much larger than I imagined it to be. I mean, it's almost the size of a swimming pool.
Yeah. During the 1st century, especially among the Jewish people, there was a practice of ritual bathing before you did anything of a religious nature. And so there were a number of these pools or mikvahs around the area. And sometimes they were much larger, like the pool of Siloam. And so this pool would have been a pool that people would have gone to go through the practice of ritual bathing before they went up to the temple.
Barry, we've come out of the tunnel and we look to be on some steps. So I'm assuming we've reached the pool of Siloam.
We have. This is an active dig site. They're still digging here. They're still doing a little construction here. They've only actually exposed one side of it. And what you have is the typical Herodian style with step, 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 flat area, another few steps, another flat area. The rest of the pool of Siloam, probably 90% of it, actually sits behind us, but it's on private property. And that's good and bad. It's bad in the fact that we can't see it, but it's good in the fact that we know it's there and it's protected.
This pool, which is mentioned over in John 9 with the healing of the blind man, is a significant part of that event. You have this man who's been born blind, and they want to know whose fault was that? Was it his parents, or did he do something? Really similar to the question that Job's friends asked him in the Old Testament. Is there such a thing as innocent suffering? Is all suffering a direct result of someone's personal guilt? And Jesus' answer was no. It wasn't a result of him sinning. It wasn't a result of his parents sinning. We live in a world that's been broken by sin. And as a result of that, people get sick, there's disease, we see death, we see natural disasters. So it answers that question. I don't always suffer because of a direct result of my own personal sin. But I live in a world where it has been cursed. And even in the midst of that, God is able to be glorified in how we respond to that innocent suffering. It's a rich, rich text. It's powerful to think about, what did he see for the first time? As he came down to this pool and washed that clay away, all of a sudden he was able to see when for his entire life that was not possible. The rest of the chapter is just how everyone in this man's circle responds to the fact that he can see now. His neighbors have questions about it. The religious authorities have questions about it. They bring his parents in to ask them questions about it. And by the time you get to the end of the text, the point that John is making from the sign of the miracle, because all of the miracles were signs, this man who had physically been born blind was the one who spiritually saw Jesus for who he was, a righteous man who was able to work miracles. And the religious leaders who had physical sight were spiritually blind. They weren't able to recognize Jesus for who he was. So at the end of the chapter, they've rejected Jesus as the Son of God, and it's the blind man who's wanting to follow him.
I love visiting the Pool of Siloam. Jesus has such compassion on people. To me, it's a vivid reminder of the love that Jesus has for everyone. Not only this blind man in the first century, but for me as well.
I'm Craig.
And I'm Stu, and we're the founders of Appian Media.
We really hope that you've enjoyed the content that you've just seen. This was only made available through the generous donations of so many of you.
We believe that the world should have biblically accurate, visually engaging content about the Bible, and it should be free for everyone.
We would encourage you to visit the membership page of appianmedia.org and consider becoming a reoccurring member. Everything that you donate to Appian Media is tax deductible.
However you decide to donate, we really appreciate your support.